just about to say, where's Dave? Okay, cool. All right, it is 6:02, and I'm calling to order the meeting of the Andover Regional School District Policy Subcommittee. Here in attendance. Do we have to do that verbally?
No.
No, okay. I'm seeing.
The only thing I would say is that
Lisa Murray's here in attendance as her alternate duties in place of Cheryl. All right, so to call to order, do we have written down where we ended with the Bs? I think BG is on my thing. I don't know if it's the last one we passed or if it's the one that we didn't get to.
The one that we didn't get to, BG.
BG was the first one that we didn't get to. Okay. So this one was not, did not look like BG had very much in the way of exciting changes. I certainly didn't have any issues with John's suggestion. They deleted a sentence. So this policy is, you have it there, Lisa?
BG.
You want me to read it out loud or no? Okay. So it looks like a sentence was deleted in regards to the National School Board Association, which I guess that's not really a thing anymore, right?
Well, I'm sorry, I was going to make a point of order that a Pledge of Allegiance was on the agenda. I don't know if you want to do that first.
Sorry. Look at me. Why don't you get right down to work? All right. Lisa, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right, now we get to discuss BG.
BG is just school committee policy development. It basically is a statement that says that the school committee is responsible for developing policy. The only substantive change was just the deletion of that one line, and then the addition of that note is one of the other changes.
That's correct.
So there's nothing earth-shattering about that.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, passes unanimously.
BGC, policy revision and review. Basically, it is a statement that the school committee will constantly be reviewing and revising policies in a continuous fashion, which we are doing right now.
They deleted a lot of redundancy.
Yeah, they just shortened the policy, which I think makes it easier to read, and again, it sets out what is one of the three mandated, responsibilities of the school committee. I give a motion to accept BCG.
Second.
All those in favor?
I'm sorry, BGC, to be
So,
precise.
yeah.
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, BGC, excellent. All right, BHE, looks like a single letter was changed.
Sentence.
A single sentence was changed.
And a letter.
BHE.
Internet is BHE.
Okay.
This one is important simply because it talks about the electronic messaging by school committee members. Being advised that electronic messages includes not only email but also text messages, social media posting, any internet forums, internet chat rooms. It can even be if you have memes that are forwarded. So anything of literally anything can be construed as any type of communication is something you have to be careful of, because as a school committee member, all of that is subpoenable. So if you ever got into a mess, they could ask for a public records request, and if you did not provide, let's say, a record of your Facebook postings with regards to something, then you would be non-compliance with the medical records law, and if found out, that's a violation of your ethics code and the public records law.
Correct, which is why I inform my employer that when I'm in public session, I can't even receive patient-related text messages because there is no way to keep them private. So the only changes to this is the word internet's no longer capitalized, and it does remove the sentence saying that everything would be printed printed and retained in the central office, which I can't imagine we have already been printing everyone's text messages. So we haven't even, and nor do we really have a methodology for that. Anyway, I'm fine with removing it from the policy. I think the committee, before my tenure, made kind of a decision that really no one was going to be texting during meetings, just to kind of have that be a non-issue, right? You guys had a big discussion.
We did.
Yeah. So, if there's no further discussion, any motions?
Motion to accept BHE.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. EBA, school committee conferences and conventions.
They changed the word system to district.
Mm,
You can see it's highlighted in yellow.
Yeah,
And,
okay.
Everything else is the same. Basically, this is
Yeah.
for conferences, conventions, and workshops. So the school committee should be made aware of conferences, the funding of such, reimbursement for travel expenses. No real changes, nothing of significance here. It's all, it's not very controversial. Make a motion to accept BIBA.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent, all right. Oh, we've got something that has actual changes to it. John's description of the changes includes all of the various procedures that are to be followed, set rates of compensation for school committee members, the provisions under which this may happen depend upon type of town charter. Our current version of this policy only lists the procedures for setting compensation of regional school committee members. You prepared two drafts. The first version was to remove the procedures, and the second version includes all of the MASC language, which you attached.
I'd like to make
there is no compensation in our town. for
No,
school
I'd like to make a motion on this. I'd like to make a motion to table this one because this involves compensation of representatives from both communities, which would require a vote from both towns because it's funding, and it would require a change to the regional agreement. So we can have this here, but the funding for the salaries would, I believe, have to go through a town vote.
But this is only in regards to school committee members, and our school committee members do not have any compensation, right?
Right. But if we wanted to, if in the future, again, I try to make policy as broad as possible, so inclusive as possible. And, you know, what if in the future there was a discussion about it? So I think we should at least have, if we're gonna have a discussion about, again, we're talking about opening up the regional
So
agreement.
you want to
changing it.
table it and put it on the agenda for the full committee
I would.
to discuss,
Yeah.
instead of us voting?
I would, because we're tying the hands of future school committees by saying that there will be no salary, no salary, no compensation.
But unless, right?
No, there's still a methodology that the towns could
It
decide
says
for there to be
accept, yeah.
compensation. Right?
Right, unless the towns.
Will be reimbursed for, so it says that you can.
By a
be
majority
reimbursed.
vote of the voting member towns authorized at their respective town meetings, the amount of such compensation in each case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be set by the respective cities, towns, or groups of towns.
I still would pull this in front of the committee. Makes me a little nervous when we have, because this has budgetary implications as well as policy implications. So I would just want to make sure, because nowhere else in our regional agreement do we have anything that talks about compensation of school committee members. And so.
Because there is none.
There is none, but like I said, again, in the future, let's say that there was a discussion about it. So I would just.
But this is already a policy right now, but they're just wanting to, we already have this.
You already have this policy. You can see that I think it's version 2 is what you have. If you take out the yellow and add in the strike-in.
So this already exists for us.
Correct.
Wait, version 2 is what we already have?
Yes, with the exception of If you don't have the yellow language and you currently have the language that's stricken.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah. So it says, shall serve without compensation unless in compliance with messages, okay, yeah. Oh, I see how you did, okay.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, John, but the difference between version 1 and version 2 is version 1 is really only for a regional school district, and version 2 just includes all of the language.
Correct.
Such that if for some reason our school district became not a regional school district, the policy theoretically might not need to be changed, except I'm sure there'll be some rewords or capitalization changes on this policy 1 year from now. Is what I'm getting from this, right? So, I mean, I don't know, I think you guys already know my preference is to go with MASC and.
Version
Can
1.
Can
Go ahead, John.
I just point out an issue that, this is where I thought there might be some more substantive discussion. So your current version of the policy says no member of the committee shall be eligible for employment within the public schools of the district. The revised language says no member of a school committee in any town shall be eligible for the position of teacher, superintendent of public schools therein, or in any union or school superintendency union or district in which their town participates. So, under your current policy, all school employees are not eligible to be school committee members. In this revised version, only the superintendent and teachers are not able to be school committee members, which could create some interesting situations that are concerning to me. Like, you could have the assistant superintendent as a member of the committee, which also appoints the assistant superintendent, or the special ed director be a member of the committee. You could have a principal be a member of the committee, in which case they are supervising the person who supervises them. So I just worry about going to sort of that less restrictive language that only bars the superintendent and teachers.
I don't like that, but both of your versions have that in it.
Because that's what the current MASC recommendation is. So I'm putting it in there, but I'm also noting it as a concern that comes to my mind and you may want to think about. It is what the law says. It's correct under the law. Law says it can't be the superintendent or a teacher.
And the intent of that law does not bar the assistant superintendent?
Well, getting into legislative
Not every
intent
district
is
has
hard.
an assistant superintendent, right?
Correct.
Yeah, you also have finance directors, you have special ed directors.
I don't think that we can have, I don't think it would be appropriate for any of those people to be on the school committee.
Well, the way Massachusetts law is written is that Massachusetts law is very liberal when it comes to allowing people to hold office so long as the individual who is elected to a position files a public disclosure with the town clerk and makes it clearly known that they're a member. So if you had a teacher.
Yeah, but then they'd have to recuse, if someone worked for the school, like if the assistant superintendent was on the school committee, they would have to recuse themselves from like 90% of the votes in the discussions. And especially if they were a resident of Hamden, there's a limited number of members from Hamden on the committee, and now we'll only have like one voting person from Hamden if you vote in Hamden.
I'm telling you, just the way the law is. And the law is, I remember doing the conflict of interest training for the umpteenth millionth time. The law is very permissive with regards to those who live in a municipality or live in a regional school district and want to be an elected representative. There's very few limitations to it.
So the
It's-
line you crossed off, you would want to keep, John? The one that
I
says,
think-
no member of the committee shall be eligible for employment within the public schools of the district.
I think there are a lot of practical reasons why it
Yeah.
makes sense.
So you'd be more comfortable with keeping that?
That would be my recommendation. I'm not an attorney, but
Yeah.
it kind of has been the practice where I've been. You know, I could imagine, you know, maybe the reason.
I mean, there's other positions besides teacher where it would be an issue as well, like we could go into like,
So I think the question, well, based on what the substance of what that sentence is basically you're elected to the school committee and then you're eligible for a position to be hired. Am I off base on that?
I mean,
You know, what it's saying is, if you're already an employee, you can't serve as a school committee member as well.
That sentence says, no member of the committee shall be eligible for employment within the public schools of the district. That to me makes it seem as though if they're a member of the school committee, they can't be hired by the school district. But
So would you say, like-
it doesn't necessarily mean in the reverse.
so Bill, would you put like, shall not be employed or be eligible for employment, like both? They must not be currently employed, like add the extra.
the way it is the way it's been.
Previously,
for a while.
yeah.
But we also
And I
have.
see your concerns, I mean, we can't discuss specifics here, but I can think of stuff, just since I've been on the committee, from executive session that I could see potential conflicts of concern.
So I see that as, maybe, this might be something for Jonathan or Sean. I would say, let's punt this one off to them. The only reason why is because we're talking about a policy that is in sort of direct opposition to what Massachusetts statute is, to maybe give us a little bit more clarification on that, because we may get ourselves into hot
It's not
water.
in opposition, it's just
Adding.
adding our own restrictions.
But as, again, interpretation of the law is what makes the balloon get inflated. So the way I see it is that the law is written in an intentionally ambiguous way, so as to allow as much latitude as possible. We're adding restrictions that are not necessarily part of the law, which I think is, again, I think it's something that at least we should have a discussion with them about, simply because it is, it's not in agreement with what the law says. It's adding stuff that the law does not have.
Well, if we're gonna have legal look at this, why don't we ask them to give us an opinion as to whether they think it's worthwhile for us to include the whole wordage from MASC as well?
Okay.
And then maybe ask Michelle, because on Bill's earliest point, ask Michelle to put this on the agenda for the full committee to discuss once
Once we
he's
get
been
it
able to
back.
share his opinion in regards to those two questions.
And then the other question that I would ask is just in terms of salary and appropriations. I just want to make sure that we're not running afoul of the regional agreement, whether we want to have any language in the regional agreement reflecting what we have in our policy manual with regards to compensation. So somewhere in the regional agreement, there could be a statement basically just saying that members of the school committee by a majority vote of both towns may be eligible for compensation. So.
But there's nothing in this regional agreement that says that they're not.
No, but I think we're gonna.
I mean, you don't foresee any time in the next 10 years that there's gonna be compensation for school committee members.
We
I mean,
never
with how
foresaw-
tight our budget
And we
is.
never foresaw,
Bring it,
and we never foresaw anywhere in the next 10 years, in the last 10 years, where there was gonna be a lawsuit against the district. So I'm gonna say that, you know, we should at least have a discussion. it's stupid for us to just assume one thing and then look back and say, wow, maybe we should have brought that up. If we're gonna open up the regional agreement, we're gonna make changes to it, we might as well open it up and make substantive changes and just encounter, and just think of things that you may not necessarily be thinking of as being applicable now, but could be applicable in the future.
Don't forget, you can open it up, but there won't be any changes unless they're actually voted by the towns and approved. I could see adding something to the regional agreement about school committee member compensation getting, circled around on Facebook that, oh, if you approve the changes to the regional agreement, we're gonna have to pay the people on the school committee now and
No,
everything.
it still has to go through the full school committee. But like I said, if we're setting up,
Right.
because when is the last time the regional agreement was modified?
It's been, I think it's been 10 or 20 years, correct?
No, 2015.
2000.
2015, it was opened up, they changed the verbiage with regards to when the term of the newly elected school committee members would start. That is the last time, so 2015, that was almost 9 years ago, right? So it's not very often that the school committee does this, and like I said, if we're gonna make some substantive changes to the regional agreement, I would at least just have a discussion. I don't think there's anything.
So is the question for Sean and Jonathan, if this policy, allows for the potential for payment, should it also be reflected in the regional agreement?
Correct, because the regional agreement this is the policy manual of the school committee, but the regional agreement is the agreement between the two towns and the district. So you could essentially run afoul, because let's say that for some reason, let's say that you all of a sudden run into a dearth of school committee members, right? Nobody wants to run. And so they say, well, in order to entice people to run, we're gonna offer, a $2,500 annual stipend for school committee members. But now the towns have to vote on that because it's written in our policy manual, but one town says, well, we're not gonna vote on that. Town of Wilbraham says, we're not gonna approve it because it's not in the regional agreement. There's nothing that binds us to that. That school committee document does not bind us to the agreement. So, and then you're gonna get into an argument legally with the two towns and the district.
Both towns always vote on the budget.
Think of your medical
And
record.
that would be part of the budget.
Think of your medical record, Mike, right? If you didn't write it down, it didn't happen, right? So you can't assume that in the next 10 years, there's gonna be the same angle of vision.
Well, we'll see what Sean says on it, since he's looking at that. All right, so is everybody okay with tabling this one?
Make a motion to table BID.
For discussion at full committee.
Yep.
All right.
Pending legal.
Yep. I
legal review.
agree. Lisa,
Second.
you're cool. Okay.
Yep.
All right, BJ, School Committee Legislative Program, typo correction. Annually designated person, comma, I guess wasn't there, and then there's another comma, right? Who may or may not be a member of the committee, comma, to serve as its legislative representative. So, now Sean is our current legislative representative, right?
We've never done this. So one of the suggestions,
So he's just our MASC representative.
Correct.
Who would logically be our legislative representative.
Not
but
necessarily.
We don't have a legislative representative.
Not necessarily. So we've never done this. I would say that from a policy perspective, I think the policy is fine. I think we should annually designate a person. But what I would probably suggest is that when we discuss this at school committee, one of the things that we bring up to the chair is to add this to the annual calendar or the organizational meeting. So the organizational meeting, we can have that discussion about who would be your legislative representative.
And we could ask John to be our legislative representative.
We could.
Because it doesn't limit us to people on the committee.
Correct.
Since he already actually kind of does that. Anytime there's a legislative thing, he sends us emails about everything. So actually, you're actually already doing it, right?
Well, this might involve more. I mean, this might be the person who goes to the MASC Day on the Hill. So I definitely will continue to do that, whether it's me or not, but you might also want to think about having a school committee member do it too.
Okay. No, that's true. MASC Day on the Hill.
So when you send the summary to Michelle, I would just make put a little bit of tickler. So if you look at the sort of the annual schedule, the calendar for the year, there's basically little ticklers for each month to tell you. So I would probably put it in the organizational meeting or in the first month meeting that we assign a legislative representative.
So do you guys want me to ask Michelle that we talk about this at the next meeting?
Correct.
Because we neglected to do it at the organizational meeting, or to make sure we do it at the next organizational meeting?
No,
Which will be after the election, right?
I would just bring it up at the next meeting. All I would say is, this is a policy that we found out. We don't currently do this, but as we talked about it in policy, our suggestion was that we add it to the annual calendar or to the organizational meeting. That's all you have to do. Policy's not changing, but it's just making sure that we have a mechanism to actually keep the policy in the front of our brain and use it.
Well, annually was added, so it used to be annually.
Right.
So I'm okay with it being annually, and I think it probably, if the committee decides that they want to do this, and it's not up to us to tell the committee that they want to do it, right? That's the full committee vote, then probably should be done every year after the election as part of the organization. I think that all makes sense. Okay. But we're going to approve this policy. Can I get a motion to approve the policy?
Motion to approve BJ.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, ooh, that's the B's. Okay, I'm super excited now.
Right, there's only 24 more letters in the alphabet.
Yeah, but C is not quite as traumatic.
No, it's not.
Okay, so I'm gonna group some of the C's, but let's do the first one first. Administrative goals. There was some grammatical changes to bring it to the active voice. And I have no problems with any of the grammatical changes. I'm not sure if anyone else is worried about that or.
No.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the changes to CA, administrative goals?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. CB, regional school superintendent. Also, just a couple rewordings here. I did check, so one of the rewordings is and several of these Cs, they're changing him, her pronouns to they, thems, to be non-sex orienting. There is a reword here that changed from selectmen to select board. I did check with Mike Squidno, and they have changed the name. They are a select board now. They're no longer selectmen in our town. So that was the only thing I had circled on this one, because if that's not what they're called in our town, then it wouldn't make sense to change the policy, but it is, so it would be quite appropriate to make that change. Anyone else have concerns on this one?
No.
All right, can I get a motion to
So
approve?
moved.
Second.
All those in
Yes.
favor?
Aye.
All right. Now, due to very minimal changes, I would like to group together, if we could have a motion to approve CBD. Okay, let's just talk about CBD. The other ones got more worded by some of them haven't changed. So the changes, it adds a note explaining that the maximum length we can give the superintendent on his contract is 6 years. And that's a pretty straightforward thing.
Yep.
Do I have a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. All right, CBI, evaluation of the superintendent. Once again, there are pronoun changes in this one. Open meeting law has been capitalized. and sources are updated. There are some cross-outs here, according to the evaluation cycle agreed upon by the superintendent. It looks like it gets rid of the terminology of performance objectives, and just calls them goals. So, which I don't have any problem with. You don't have any insight, John, as to why MASC wanted the terminology switch there?
In performance objectives, I would guess it's because under the educator evaluation system, the educators are supposed to propose goals, not performance objectives. An
Okay.
objective would be underneath a goal, but really the evaluation's on the big thing, not each of the little steps of it.
Got it. Okay, all right, so that's.
Make a motion to approve CPI.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye, okay. All right, so we have a system change to district in CCB. We have some pronoun changes in CE. We have district change to system in CH. Can I have a motion to approve those three? CCB, line and staff relations. CE, administrative councils, cabinets, and committees. And CH, policy implementation.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Okay. CHCA, approval of handbooks and directives. I guess they like to switch it to the active voice. They changed some pronouns in this one, and there's a new source that's added. And they say at the beginning of the next school year instead of in September, just in case we decide to be wild and crazy one year and start school on August 31st, we'll still be covered, I guess. Any questions or concerns about this one? Motion to approve?
I just have one question.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. And it just doesn't make a lot of sense. So if you read in the second paragraph,
Yeah.
the second sentence, it says that, well, let me read the paragraph. It says, it's essential that the contents of all handbooks conform to school committee policies. It is also important that all handbooks bearing the name of the school system or one of its schools be of a quality that reflects credit on the school department. Therefore, the committee expects handbooks requiring approval to be approved prior to publication by the committee and/or the superintendent. So, I don't understand. So if we expect the handbooks requiring approval to be approved, how can we approve something? Am I missing something on how this is worded?
So I think it's saying there are two types of documents. One is the student handbook, which needs to be approved by the school committee to make sure that we don't put things in there that go against any of the policies that you've approved. And then there are other handbooks that don't necessarily have to be approved by the school committee. Could be employee handbooks, could be other things. For those that want to make sure that it receives a second set of eyes before it's published, so that it doesn't go out with a bunch of errors and reflect badly on the district.
So those need to be looked at by either us or you.
Right. It's just worded terribly. It's just, because you have the,
But that's not a change, it was worded that way before.
no, but I'm reading it for the first time, and again, I just try to make policies, like, policies should be easy to read. It shouldn't be like word salad, and it shouldn't be like, it should be doing the following. The committee expects handbooks requiring approval to be approved prior to publication by the committee and/or the superintendent. What does that mean?
Well, I think it wants to make sure that either us or the superintendent are satisfied that it's going to be professional looking, that it doesn't contain grievous errors, and it's checked before it's gone to publication so that we don't waste,
So
you
would
know,
it be,
if they're going to print
Like
300
what-
copies of it.
so
we're
wouldn't it be
not gonna
better,
waste all that money.
so wouldn't it be better to say this, therefore the committee expects handbooks requiring approval to be reviewed prior to publication by the committee and/or the superintendent? Or to say that the handbooks requiring approval should be reviewed by the committee? See what I mean? Because the committee is expecting that the handbooks requiring approval be approved prior to publication by the committee. So how am I supposed to approve something that if I've already approved it? Unless the committee, which is the school committee,
Right.
expects handbooks requiring approval to be approved prior to publication by the committee.
All right, how about this, Bill? Let's shorten it. Therefore, the committee expects all handbooks to be approved prior to publication by the committee and/or the superintendent.
You're missing my point. Your committee is expecting, so if we've already approved it, and now the handbook's requiring approval to be approved prior to publication by the committee and/or the superintendent, expects.
I'm not reading it as we've already approved it, though. I'm reading it as we expect that it needs to be read through and looked over book.
Correct.
Are there any handbooks that don't need to be approved by either you or us, John?
Sure, a shop teacher might have a handbook for use of equipment within their classroom.
Okay, so that's why this is worded so weirdly, because not all handbooks are required to have approval. Although it doesn't define that, and I'm scared to even ask that. Although, Lisa, you brought up actually a much more important question that I want to get to before we forget this, about the website. So how can we make this sound a little bit easier?
Handbooks go on websites, and some of those handbooks can be scary if they haven't been.
Yeah.
But what if we get rid of therefore the committee expects, and it just says, the sentence just starts with, handbooks requiring approval must be approved prior to publication by the committee and/or the superintendent. I mean, I think the intent of this sentence is,
Are there any?
the thing better be approved
Oh, wait.
before you go to press. I
Wait.
think
So
that's
did
the
you ask?
intent of
Did you
the
ask the question? Are there any handbooks that do not require approval?
And there are.
There are. Okay.
There are.
So-
So it does need to have that bit of the wording in there, but saying committee and committee twice in it, I get that, I mean, that does make it kind of cockamamie, but if we just strike the therefore the committee expects, and we just say handbooks requiring approval to be approved, need to be approved prior to publication by the committee or the superintendent. All right, hold on, now that doesn't make
Wait,
sense anymore.
It's clumsily worded.
Clumsily worded, okay.
It's clumsily worded.
Handbooks requiring approval must be approved by either the committee or the superintendent
prior to publication.
Yeah, that sounds.
Did you get, did anyone
Or if
get
you
that?
could write it-
I'm
or
not
you could
sure I
say-
do it again.
Handbooks requiring
Yeah.
approval by the committee and.
Or if you,
superintendent.
actually, it might read better if you put, therefore, prior to the approval, or prior to the publication of any handbook requiring approval.
Sorry, getting awkward.
So I think the problem is having publication before the committee and/or the superintendent. Because one way of reading that is that the committee or the superintendent is going to go out and publish it.
Right.
Yeah,
So I think the last thing you said was, the committee expects handbooks requiring approval to be approved by the committee or superintendent prior to publication. It fixes that problem.
that does, that sounds good. Now, we also
Yes.
now need to discuss, are we okay allowing the word publication to mean both in press, physical publication, and on the website publication? Or do we have to put something in there, and you opened this can of worms?
I
with
did,
two
because
words.
publication can also be publication on a website.
Right, so are we comfortable with the term publication meaning both virtually on the website and in press, physical press, or do we need to put something in there, you know, to say
Because
that.
now handbooks are on the website, we don't actually print them.
Yeah, but the website and the material that's on the website is uploaded through administration, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
It's not like Wikipedia where you can just kind of randomly log in and add stuff.
No,
So,
no, yes, but I mean,
I think the word I don't have any problems with the word publication. I mean, publication means.
so the question is, do we need to add, prior to publication or dissemination electronically, or, something?
Meaning, what's the definition of publication now?
Well, the Oxford
Yeah.
English Dictionary and Merriam-Webster disagree with each other.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
So-
Prior to publication, how about prior to publication in printed or digital form?
Well, so let's hear you looked at these definitions.
Well, yeah, according to the OED, it is specifically in a book or a journal publication.
Webster's.
According to Webster's, it's just producing a work. So,
I mean, a lot of handbooks are only on
Right.
websites now. And we definitely need that looked at before it gets put on a website.
We expect.
Prior to physical
How about if-
or
How would you just add
electronic
how would you just
publication?
add a sentence that just says, publication, publication is defined.
Star.
Publication is defined as a document released. Publication can be used to describe a document released in written or digital form.
how about if we work with the root word there, how about if we just say prior to being made public?
Ooh.
Well, it doesn't put the stopgap in there on making sure that nobody blows $1,000 printing a bunch of stuff off that hasn't been approved by you. Which I think is the original intent of this sentence. Don't blow $1,000 printing stuff until it's been approved by the superintendent or us. But for all intents and purposes, it's gonna be by you, right? So I don't wanna deflate the original intent of this sentence, even though we're not, I mean, some of these things we are printing still, right? And, putting in student hands, the behavior books, stuff like that, right? So, prior to publication or electronic
Or
dissemination
or
in any
posting.
way.
Publication or posting, publication.
Well, but it could be sent by email, it could be posted on a website. There's a lot of ways to disseminate information these days. That's why I chose the wording electronic dissemination.
So you want to say publication or electronic?
Distribution,
How about if you say-
electronic distribution.
Publication / electronic distribution.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does. I noticed that my note got dropped off, so I'll just point out there's another change here that does have some substance to it. Right now, the law says that any building inclusive of grades 9 through 12 need to have a handbook that's created by the principal with their school council. This takes that limitation off. It just says the principal in consultation with the school council shall prepare and distribute student handbook. So
It makes it for all grades.
it makes it for all grades.
And all the principals have councils.
Well, we do one as a district, and a lot of districts do that. I'm just pointing out, it's an area, like the last one, where we're kind of at variance with what the legal requirement is.
Okay. So, and I'm fine with that. I think that's only a positive change.
Okay. Make a motion to approve CHCA with the recommended changes.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, CM, Regional School District Annual Report. Yeah, system had to be changed to district, because we don't call it system anymore. And this is the last one. Any discussion?
Motion to approve CM.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
That was pretty straightforward.
Before we move towards adjournment, is there anything that anybody wants to make sure is included in the next policy subcommittee meeting?
Starting with the Ds.
I'd like to go to the Ds.
I think the Ds would be good. And then when are we gonna meet next?
Well, next Thursday, we have regular school committee. So,
Correct.
our Thursday night, I mean, it doesn't really matter. right?
Actually, you know, the off Thursday night is often, I thought I was gonna be on call all the off Thursday nights, but it turned out to be too complicated for people to keep track of just the first and third
Yeah.
Thursday of every month, so I'm basically off all Thursday nights.
Yeah.
So, do you guys wanna meet on the 25th? Is that too soon?
No, that's okay with me.
I think it might be good to get in a second meeting this month, because February, there's a school vacation week. I'm not sure what we're gonna have open to us for.
So we have 24 letters yet to go.
Well, no, we don't have the whole alphabet. I think it ends in K or L, so.
Look at this, we're like cooking, man. All right, so the next meeting will be at the 25th at 6 PM again?
Okay.
All right,
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we are adjourned.
All right.
Quick work.
Sure.
I love it.
Thank you so much for setting up last